Hello, YouTube. Uh, Thank you for stopping by today. Uh, we're so happy to see you. Now, I just have a quick favor for you. Can you just hit the like button for us? That'd be awesome. And tell us before we get into it what your favorite part of the show was. We're kind of do a little experiment. Okay, we'll let you know the
Yes.
results of that later on. And let's get into this. Welcome to the Capcast. Uh,
Yeah.
I am Naiwal.
And
Uh,
I am Tunnel Snake's fool.
you are?
I am. It's a long name.
What what was the story that you told me about your username?
That people think it's a toilet snake.
I that wasn't the story I was going for. I was going
Oh
so
no.
tell me about this. What?
Where the username came from?
The no, now I'm curious about the freaking toilet snake. Who was saying it's a toilet snake?
So in Fallout fan history, there was a sect of Fallout 4 players who refused adamantly to never play Fallout 3 because it kind of looks like a potato because it's old, and that's fine. We still like old games here.
Yeah.
So they didn't know what tunnel snakes were. So they were like, "Oh, I always assumed it was like a toilet snake." And I was like, "No. First of all, tunnel snake is kind of an innuendo, you know? That's the joke that Fallout 3 is making. But tunnel snakes are a gang in Fallout 3. And people did not understand it. And it made me very sad that they thought it was a toilet declogging device.
That's see now. I think you would have been pretty proud because when I went to Mythicon like sometime last year, and someone had on a tunnel snake's rule leather
Yes,
black jacket,
the best.
and and here I am trying to be Naiwal. And I was like, if he's wearing a tunnel snake's rule jacket, odds are he's probably seen my Fallout
Oh
videos.
no.
They've got millions. And I walk over, I say, "Hey, is that a tunnel snake's jacket?" And in the most rude tone I could have gotten from anybody, uh, yeah, I guess. And
He,
I
this guy
was
does not
offended.
represent us.
This guy just
He's not a snake.
he better not. Look, you got the snake tatty on
Yeah,
your freaking arm right there. So yeah, I was offended,
I'm
and
offended for
I
you.
was immediately humbled and realized, okay, I'm not recognized yet. All right,
Should we pop the top?
let's pop the top. Guys, we had our what is this episode five?
Endure and survive, which bring on the sad energy.
You know
Again,
what? Okay, I feel like I should have taken a wager on that because I was like, I feel like it was endure and survive because it kept getting
mhm,
reiterated.
sad. We open on what the vibe was like a
Viva la Kansas City!
it was like okay, I'm sorry, Kansas City, but I have seen people celebrate after a Red Sox win for the World Series. That was the vibe it was giving. Like people were firing off fireworks, just celebrating bedroom
Getting
being
murdered in
destroyed.
the street. Yeah, people don't forget about that part.
That happens. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be real. A little scary. But I thought that was a little
Ironically, hold up. Who's playing in the bowl?
yeah. We
Yeah.
have Philly, the Eagles, and Kansas City.
Well, look at that. I don't
Wait,
know.
who are you going for then? Now I'm
I
curious.
gotta. Okay, I'm a country boy from the Panhandle of Texas, and we have two celebrities that come from here: Buddy Holly
That's
and
cool.
Patrick Mahomes. That's it. So guess who I'm going for?
I don't know. I don't.
Kansas.
Okay.
Oh, you don't know sports ball? Kansas City.
I know sports ball. I don't. I don't. I'm not a big football fan. I legally am required to be a fan of sports because my dad was an Uber jock. So I am a fan of some sports, baseball, hockey.
You know, why are you making me think of another Lonely Island song? You need to stop.
I'm from that era. I was in high school when most of those dropped. So
Football, hockey, sports ball. Go team,
hey,
go.
I have watched countless hours of my dad loves sports. He played all the sports huge jock.
So
So
I say we both need to be representative of a team for this weekend,
I was gonna
whether or
root for
not that.
Kansas City.
Oh, you stink. Why are you gonna root for them?
I don't know. I don't want to root for the Eagles. Honestly, that's just it. You
You're
know,
like, they're from Philly. Okay, all right.
my
So
dad's from Chicago, so
here's what we're gonna do.
that's the team I root for
We
normally.
we are going to play. We're gonna make a game out of this. Okay, Kansas City, and then you have Philly.
Hmm.
I guess I will represent Philly this week.
No, you represent the team
Reluctantly.
you
No,
want
no,
to
no, no,
represent.
no, 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 no. Here's how we're doing it. Because depending on who wins, the other person in this podcast is going to lose. We're going to figure out a challenge along the week. Either it's going to be a dress up thing, or I'm going to make you read horrible Fisto fan fiction, something like that.
I will read it in a sultry voice the whole
We-
time. We'll both have sultry voices.
yes. So you know what? Maybe we'll do that. We'll do
Okay.
Fisto fan fiction. Someone has to read it.
We're not going to be able to monetize this episode when we hit.
It'll be all right. We'll
Okay.
post it. We'll post it up as a separate from everything
Okay.
else.
All right.
That
You're
sound good.
rooting. We're rooting against. I'm gonna root against Kansas or root for Kansas City then.
Mark my mark my words. You will be reading. Yeah. So yeah, they had
You're
just
using advanced knowledge against me.
you have a good team. That's all I got to say about that. It's good. So yeah, Viva La Kansas City. They have just broken free from Fedra. And we see that Kathleen kind of leading the charge and
Sassy interrogation.
which someone actually had said this, and or apparently there was some kind of debate about it on Twitter that Kathleen is too soft spoken to be a leader.
I present you the woman from Euphoria.
Yeah, that's what I'm sitting there. I was like, yeah,
You've watched that show, right?
Mhm.
She's scary.
Yeah.
Same energy, except she's not like sex trafficking anyone in this
I
one. So.
also think of Zootopia.
The sheep.
Yeah, her Bayweather, something like that. Bellwether, something, whatever.
I don't have a kid. You know more about that one than me.
She was the mastermind.
Yeah,
but yeah, she goes into this pin where a whole bunch of people, which are known as collaborators, are holed up, and this is where I put snitches end up in ditches, and I was kind of like, yeah, I understand where they're killing them.
snitches end up burnt because it's faster.
Apparently so.
She said that.
I was like, but I also put, to be fair, they were just trying to live. And ultimately they gambled on the wrong side of it. And I mean, Kathleen, she's ruthless, and she was like, yeah, kill them anyway. She was trying to figure out where Henry was. They knew something. And then, which is kind of funny because there was one guy who was bugged out. That's a weak link right there. I can see one from a mile away.
Right. I was like, this is such a waste of resources. What is it necessary? Like it did not serve them well in the end. But
it's I mean, we're gonna talk about that whole scenario later. I got so many anyway.
Oh, there's a lot of thoughts. I'm so excited. So they kill the people, and I took note of all of the off-screen deaths for you this episode because they were a lot.
There were a lot. There was one really good one though.
That's true. And I'm glad we didn't see that one. I think I know which one you're talking about. But,
no. I was like, there was one on-screen death that I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah. So we had talked about in the previous episode how this show seems to be shying away from on-screen deaths, and I think this kept, other than the couple that were there, this really kept with that theme that you had mentioned in our last recording, which they are doing a lot of these deaths off screen, including all of the people who were interrogated to get this information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
I mean, which if we want to count every person individually, those are multiple off-screen deaths.
Yeah, it was like 30 people or something crazy like that. And then we jump into Henry and Sam.
Yeah, because we open up with that It's like the flashback of how they got to where they were, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Extremely expositional episode. I felt like that first 40. It was
Yeah.
longer too. Last week's was 45. This one was like 108 or something.
Yeah. It
With
was
the
106, 106.
right.
Yeah.
And they're with the doctor that was killed in the last episode, which took me a minute to realize who it was because it was such a quick intro and
Yeah,
murder. Uh
they were working together to try to get out of there cuz yeah, they were I'm assuming that doctor was the one responsible for taking care of Sam. Uh
right. And I
I'm
have some
pretty sure.
takes on that plot line. Yeah, so they're working to get out because Kathleen cray cray, and they need to get the hell out of there.
And establish Sam is deaf in this,
Yes,
which
which was
is
a
I
change.
like it. I like
Yeah,
that addition because it was even really leaning on to how much he depended on his brother. So
right. And I wrote down. I took 2 years of ASL in high school. I'm no expert, but the sign looked really good. I thought it was really good, and the after episode had they had like an ASL interpreter, and they did it the right way. Not the like fakey sign that some shows kind of lean into, which was cool. I wonder if we'll hear from the deaf community, and there is regional sign within the US.
mhm.
Depending on the area you're from, there is slight differences in hand shape and things like that. And I wonder if we get a little more, if they went to that much detail where they got someone from that region to be the ASL coordinator. If not, but I thought that was really good. And both the actor himself, the young the kid who plays Sam, also
Kevin
deaf.
Woodard. Yeah, I
Yeah,
made sure to
really
write his
good.
name. Yeah.
He was really good.
I don't know if this was his first one. If it was, good job, kid.
Yeah,
Good job.
he was a cutie. Did a really good job to just destroy us in this episode. But I don't know if you saw that one scene where they were like, "It's ugly in here. Here's that Ziploc bag of crayons that took me back. The broken crayons in a gallon Ziploc." I thought it was like,
So
yes.
let's decorate this room.
Hmm.
And I mean, what we and then it just jumps 10 days, which,
Right.
because and then you hear car zooming through town,
Hmm.
crash, shooting, and it's Joel and Ellie, and that's whenever what oh yeah, they kind of established like the doctor went out to go get food,
Yeah,
did not
and
come
he
back.
says he's hungry. He's like he and that was like they run out of food. Doctor never comes back, and then every time I heard a car in that scene, I was like, "Is it Joel and Ellie?"
I know, that's
You
what I
know,
was saying. Yeah. I was like, go, 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 go. And
I
yeah,
want to see them. I had no idea where they got the paint from because he's painting at a later point. They
yeah.
paint his face, which was a
I,
really cute moment.
I kind of, I kind of, I kind of chose to be like, yeah, whatever. Maybe it was just in the attic somewhere.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
was, I was like, whatever. I guess I didn't really
God,
see where that came
the
from.
the pressure to put on your brother by drawing him as a
Oh,
superhero
and
everywhere.
actually, I meant to kind of also like what I said last week about when you show that you're scared, your kid is also like whatever energy that you're picking off of is
Hmm.
what your kid's
Oh
gonna
yeah, they
pick off
mentioned
of.
the being
Yeah,
scared.
exactly. And he's like, why is he scared? He's like, because he sees that you're scared.
Right.
And he's like, dang, yeah. So I was like, yeah, I mean, there's that. I mean, there's some real truth.
Yeah.
Um,
And finally
especially
when
whenever they're like a kid that's depending on you, like
I
you are the
know
anchor. So,
that was rough. And I felt like once Light finally was cast into that room, I realized how young the brother, like the older Henry was. I was like, oh my
mhm.
God, Henry's so young to have this crazy responsibility. I realized that he's an adult. Obviously, a lot of people are parents at that age, but it's not like he chose to be a parent, it's his
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's so sad.
Which I mean, a lot of people just come from their backgrounds just because people have deadbeat parents.
Right, that's
So,
true. We get, I don't know if we got this here, but we get a little backstory on Sam had leukemia.
mhm.
Um, which I have beef with this part of the episode, to be honest with you.
What's up?
So, as you know, like we've mentioned this on the podcast before, I'm a cancer survivor. I think if you're going to use cancer in that way, where it's like a one-off kind of like, oh, it's just backstory. It's the sob story that a lot of people like to say, unless it's like something that's real and depicted in a real way, or like, bringing something positive or whatever, it doesn't, you don't need to make it that to like add a sad element to the
Yeah.
plot or whatever. Like he could have needed medicine for anything. I thought it was kind of cheap to say he had leukemia, to be honest with you.
You think that he was like, maybe he just got real sick, maybe he got pneumonia, you know?
Right. Like
Like
I think it almost cheapens the experience, and a lot of cancer survivors
the,
say the same thing. Like if there's a plot line where a character has cancer, they better do it right. You know what I
you
mean?
think it
So,
was almost like, oh, like for example, episode 3, Bill and Frank,
mhm,
that kind of thing. It was, he was sick.
right.
They did not explain what
I
he was sick
guess
with.
directors after the fact said ALS, which, we wouldn't have known
Yeah.
by just watching that episode. So,
Yeah, so I mean,
that
I
was
get,
done well, in my
yeah,
opinion.
that was done pretty well. And I think, and I can understand where you're coming from with
Yeah,
that.
that might be a
It seems like
controversial
it was
take, but
like what, almost like constructed sympathy, if that makes sense.
yeah, honestly, like the word sob story is kind of what I think it does. And I think like media that we consume kind of contributes to like, oh, you had cancer, it's so sad, you're so brave, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You hear that all the time as a survivor.
Mm.
And I don't think that adds anything positive for us as like cancer patients. You know what I mean? Like you're not,
Yeah.
you're depicting us in a certain way that makes us, it's not, don't use it for like cheap making it sadder. I don't know. Maybe they had a good reason to do it, but
In my opinion, yeah, it did feel like, it's like, I don't know if I said it last episode. I think I did, but I was like, they're going to give us backstory about Henry and Sam. They're going to do everything that we can to make us sympathize with them and really
right.
root for these characters. And I feel like that maybe been like one of the tactics to go, all right,
Yeah.
this is where they come from, so you can understand why he did what he did.
Right.
So
I still think you could do that through dialogue and relationship rather than just saying, "Oh, he had cancer." Like you feel bad for people who had cancer. It's like
I
I don't know.
think
That's me
I
as a survivor's beef with that kind of narrative. So
I think that this episode really could have dropped that whole first
the first act,
that
right?
that that first flashback totally was
Hmm.
not. I don't think, I mean, what, that was the only flashback that we got. I think they could have absolutely dropped that and it would have been fine.
Hmm. Didn't need
Because
it.
start us right off, I mean, they should have started us right off with the gun being held at
Right.
Joel's face. Joel and Ellie are being held at gunpoint. Joel's like, "Yep, nope, we're not gonna do anything." I don't
Mhm.
like the way you said that. He has an AO voice. That's
Yeah.
just how he talks.
Yeah. He
Isn't
just
that
has
right, Joel? Yep, that's
it
right.
still
Come
sounded
on.
that was a good moment between the two of them. I thought that was really fun. Um and God, the just like their plan, because that's when they go into talking about the plan, right? Of when
Yeah,
they want to
yeah.
get
They,
out from the
they pretty
tunnels.
much say, he's like, "All right, well, we're gonna stay here until morning." He's like, "I don't think that's necessary." He's like, "Well, I know you're here, so you can get a good view of the city, so you can get out. I
Yeah,
actually know the city. Trust me. We're gonna stay,
yeah.
stay."
They're gonna go through the tunnels. They had a really my line of the episode. My favorite was, "No, that's my dicey as F plan." I thought that was really funny because Joel was like, "That's your brilliant plan," and he's like, "No, that's my dicey as F plan. Come on, like
that's it.
obviously,
Well, this is where we find out, because this is all new stuff specifically for the show.
right?
Henry explains, like, Joel's like, "What are you, Fedra?" And he's like, "No, I'm worse. I'm a collaborator." And then Joel's like, "I don't work with rats." I was like, "Yeah, dang straight, snitches, dog,
Yeah,
snitches." But then he explains why, and he sold out a really good guy in order to,
for
get,
chemo, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
essentially, which, it's understandable. I
yeah.
get it, you know.
I
But
find it
yeah,
hard to believe that chemo's so limited in a city like that when that's like the most common cause of childhood cancer is leukemia. So,
yeah. So
but that's also me having beef with that whole storyline. But
yeah, it's one of those things. But
now they're
yeah,
walking in the tunnels.
they go through a tunnel, which
Why
this
is
is
the
where
kid walking last? Why wasn't he in the middle? I had such beef. Like, put the kid in the middle, keep the kids protected. Adults at either end, that's the safe way. Nothing ran up on them, so that was okay.
Yeah, it's like I mean, ultimately, they didn't run into a single thing underground.
I was expecting it too
I
because of
was
that what was
expecting
in
it
the
too.
last episode.
Yeah, and how they kind of mentioned they were like, oh yeah, that's actually my friend had asked this question. They said, how did they force the infected underground?
We're
How
gonna take the infected and push them
push them?
underground.
Yeah, it's like, how did they do that? Do they have special cattle
Right,
people
like
to do this? Like, what is going on?
if you can push them underground, just kill them.
Why couldn't
What
you
are you
just
waiting
push
for?
them? If you can push them underground, how do you push them into a boat and then just push that boat
Yeah,
elsewhere?
do it like they did the lemmings, push them all off a cliff. I'm sure that would be enough. I don't know if
How
there's,
many
I don't think
cliffs are
there's
in Kansas City?
not many. Um, push, get them to the top of a high building and push them off of that. There's so
World
many
War
things.
Z. That makes me think of World War Z. Exactly. Uh,
So they find what looks like a small little underground, like
yeah,
where people were living. Obviously, they didn't do so good.
yeah. It
Um,
was an underground settlement, is what Joel
mhm,
said. He said a lot of people moved underground.
right.
Um,
It's a very Fallout energy. They had,
and the drawing was a reference to like some backstory stuff that you can find out in the game.
oh,
Um,
interesting. The
yeah.
paintings, the murals, and all that on the wall.
Hmm.
There was a super sweet moment where Ellie gets Sam to laugh, and that was just so. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't.
they were bonding hard,
Yeah,
and I do, man, I love that scene. What they say? They said, "Endure and survive."
endure and survive. And she was making a really like strong effort to say the word and enunciate the words so he could like attempt to lip read.
Hmm.
I don't know if he could lip read, but I thought that was really sweet. Like she was, and then she, at one point she whacks Joel and she's like, talk, like
Yeah, he's like, "What's your name?" Yeah,
yeah.
say it.
So I thought, and Bella is a good actor, amazing, like well done.
We get the comic book, which this is another big thing for the game.
Hmm.
Collecting the comic books for Ellie, so it was nice to see the comic books make their appearance.
Yeah, I was wondering when that was going to happen, honestly.
Yeah. So whenever Henry is talking to Joel about the reason why he did what he did, he's like, I'm not a bad guy. He was like, this person was someone that I really looked up to. It's just,
Hmm.
you know, what would you do for the ones that you love? And I was like, this is some serious foreshadowing, dude. Uh,
Yeah,
very,
a whole hell
very
of a lot.
heavy.
Yeah,
Like in every episode that we've gotten, foreshadowing for the overarching story of The Last of Us has been taking place.
right.
Um, but yes, we move on to the Kathleen scene. My God, this useless, pointless, dumb scene. I do not care for it.
No, I literally wrote down blah, 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 blah on my notes for
Yeah,
this scene.
I said, stop trying to make Kathleen sympathetic.
Stop trying to make Kathleen happen.
Like it's like, dude, okay, it's like I get it. She has her motivations. My brother was a good man, but I'm not a good guy. In fact, he told me while they had him in prison,
Why is anyone
forgive who it
following her?
is. And which someone actually what in Discord had mentioned that um the person who plays Perry, her bodyguard, is the person who played Bill in the game.
Oh yeah, I had read that actually like a lot of the characters in the game were going to be in this episode. Well, I don't know them all off the top of my head, but I think that's so cool they did that.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that is really cool actually. But still, that does not distract from the fact that Kathleen exists.
Well, and Perry was even like come on, like
He's like, we are burning resources over
exactly. You're being a little crazy. Take take a nap,
this
eat a sandwich, like chill, girl. Like
this whole thing with Kathleen. And I think I said it last episode too. I was like, did not need to happen. I was like, this is a pointless B plot character who will fall off right
no, and
after the. I
she's
was
a
like,
villain. Like you don't need to know every detail of every villain. Like boring. Who
the
cares?
the only time you should ever have this much like care about a villain is if they're with you from the start all the way to the end. And you
Right.
know who the like anytime I look at
There's bigger fish to
good
fry in this
shows, yeah,
series.
I was like anytime I think of villains in a show, think of like with Breaking Bad, Gustavo Fring,
Mm-hmm.
Tico Salamanca. They were there for a minute. They were a
Right.
problem. They were a
Mm-hmm.
direct issue with the overarching story. This was
Right.
the hurdle that they had to get over. And
No, but we have random Kathleen, Catherine. I can't even remember her name because I was so bored.
we didn't need to know all that stuff about her. I think the scene in the last episode where they show her kind of interrogating the guy about Henry is a good way to,
That was all we needed.
I was like hint at Henry and then see that this person has like someone else has killed her people and then send them out on the hunt.
And then we jumped to the next scene, and the line I wrote down that Joel said was so much goddamn talking. Yes, you're not wrong, Joel. That's what that previous scene was.
Yeah.
Not what he was talking about,
No, no, it's just the kids.
but I
And
loved it.
yeah, I mean, and then Joel even, or not Joel, but yeah, they're kind of like going there. They make their way out of the tunnels. They're safe and sound. They're in safe and sound, and they're in a a residential area. And
And a guy with stormtrooper aim starts popping off. That, I mean,
well, I mean, whenever you see what kind of guy it is,
true. They put the oldest, most cataract-eyed dude as the distance sniper for them. Good job, guys.
freaking idiots. I mean, and even Joel says, I was like, it's dead at night, and this guy has horrible aim. He's like, y'all just stay here. You'll be okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
run up in that building. And
And we had our next off-screen death.
yeah, Joel gets up there and he's like, don't do it, man. And then he starts to like, and before he turns all the way around with the gun, boom, off screen death. And you just see a quick flash to Ellie
Mm-hmm.
as they're looking up. It's a very quick flash. And then it goes back to
Mm-hmm.
Joel and there. I'm like, it was unnecessary to show us the flash of Ellie looking up.
I like you said last week, it's not gratuitous to show someone. You could have even showed it just a shot, a POV of the guy who got yeeted, where he sees Joel and then whatever. He like what?
It's like completely cutting away. And I'm like, why are we doing this?
Mm-mm.
And
The
I think
family show.
someone had left a comment in the last video about like they don't need to show the violence and stuff. But I'm just like I was like, why do we have the TVMA rating then?
Right,
I
yeah.
was like, if it's just gonna be cussing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, then they could have just dialed it back.
And nudity or sex or something. I don't know. I know that was
Yeah,
on one of the warnings.
which
I was
I'm
like,
like,
I don't think we're gonna
I'm
see that.
not asking them to do this. It's just whenever you have that kind of a rating, I have an expectation, especially when it comes to a zombie thing. Which,
Right.
and here is another thing that comes up. So, which I'm going to talk about this because I seen it in the aftercut video, and I have a huge issue with it.
Oh, I'm
Um,
excited to hear it. I like when you have a beef with something.
it was a bad take in my opinion. But so you find out that this old guy was on a radio the whole time
Right.
talking to Kathleen. Oh, they're out here, and you hear we're almost there, and then Joel's like, guys,
Run,
guys, run.
run, Forest. Yeah, he's trying very hard to get them to run, and they were just like,
I know this this part was so
frustrating.
chaotic and stupid because I'm sitting here looking at them, looking at cars approaching, and they're dead standing
I know.
still.
My husband was like, aren't you guys running? What the hell? Like,
Like, if I even hear a car approaching, now this is back in my younger youth days when I did
car.
criminal like activity. I was a child. And by criminal like activity is like running into places I shouldn't be, such
Right.
as jumping over construction yard fences
I got chased by an
and
adult
playing with
once
rocks.
while he was yelling citizens arrest. So,
Dude, oh my God, that's crazy.
I
Okay,
was
wow.
jumping from roof to roof on top of a school.
Now, it wasn't that intense, but I was, yeah, me and my friend Chris, we were in a construction yard and we were like playing around, and then this construction truck started coming. Before it even turned the corner, me and him were bolting, like, because we knew
Hmm.
we should not be there.
Right.
You see a squad of cars pulling up, and you're like,
I'm gonna
oh
I'm gonna
wow,
wait this one out.
maybe we can get one of them cars. No, stop, go, guys. You were on the run a second ago.
Right.
Keep that same mindset. You
Right.
are not good.
No, let's stay behind the car. They have a car with a scoop front, whatever those cars are called. I don't know. And it
I mean,
literally said
it's a
run
real
on the car.
it did. Wow, you're right. But yeah, no, it was a straight up zombie apocalypse freaking truck, and it
That was
yeah,
a
and Kathleen's
good.
like, "Oh,
That's how they pushed them underground.
smart driving,
They dump trucked them into the ground. It was a
freaking
snowplow.
idiots."
I'm from
So
California. I don't know what snowplows look like.
uh-uh. So yeah, Kathleen's like, "All right, guys, we're here," and then they're like, "But there's a bunch of cars." Well, that's why you're in front, stupid. Which I
Didn't
was like, duh, why aren't, hello, you have the car that looks like it does that. So anyway,
unnecessary
they
waste
plow
of 30
through.
seconds.
Joel snipes the driver. They barrel off into a building,
Mm. Well,
and
it ignites. It's very much on fire. Um,
big mushroom cloud explosion. Boosh.
that was a good. I liked I think there were a lot of practical effects this episode. I will give them that. That was really cool to see practical effects as opposed to CGI.
Yeah,
So
practical wins every time, in my opinion.
mhm. I would rather watch a like claymation where you force perspective it to make it look bit, like that. I,
And
I would rather have that.
this is when things get chaotic and silly. So the explosion in the house happens, or yeah, explosion in the house happens, and Ellie's sitting on the ground from the explosion and not getting up. I'm
No.
just like, dude, just get up. Everyone move for the love of God. And they get
Maybe, I
behind the
mean, are they having just an utter shock response, like the fight, flight, freeze? I think Ellie was just going into freeze. Like, I mean, that is
I
kind of,
can't justify it. I cannot justify
that
it
is like
because
one of the three things that you do, when you're in which is scary. I think I would be running. I
I
mean,
would be running too. I feel like most people would be running,
some
especially
people,
especially whenever it comes to an explosion, dude. I do not want to be anywhere close to it. It's like
adrenaline and cortisone do some weird stuff to your brain. I honestly, I agree with you fully. I'm just playing devil's advocate, but I do think that was a
F the
little bit.
devil's advocate. You ain't got no room here, man. God, dude, it's people being dumb. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, I fully agree.
Makes me
Um,
think of the people who like like this is horrible, but whenever you see like any kind of shooting going on, you have that one person who's screaming and not moving. I'm like,
mhm.
why? Hello, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, like bye. I'm gone, I have been in a scenario, this is a little bit of an aside, but where there's drive on beaches in California. And they're dangerous. People die on them a lot. But I was with two other friends, and a giant, like monster truck sized truck was coming towards us, and my friend froze like deer in the headlights.
Oh God.
And I grab her and throw her on the ground, and the truck nearly misses us. So I think, like that is kind of a human thing to not to freeze in some scenarios, and it's just not really helpful.
When's the last time you've been jump scared by like, husband or whatever?
All the time. He's so quiet. I don't know how he sneaks around every corner, and he's like
Are
there, and I
are
scream.
you are you a flinch or are you a
Oh yeah.
react? I'm a
No, I flinch. That might just be my own personal trauma coming into
I,
play, but I like, yeah, and
I'm
I
a
run.
react
Yeah.
kind of guy because that one of my roommates, man, he listen, there were some sketch people coming up in and out of my old apartment, and yeah, I mean there's a few people who try to jump around a corner, and I've had to get into some fights. So
Right.
whenever I got buried, and she tried to scare me, and I had grabbed her by the shirt, and I was like, ooh.
It's such a human thing.
It's like, dude, it's like you cannot do that. She's like, yeah. She's
No.
like, sometimes I forget how bad you had it. I'm like, yeah, don't forget.
So this what you're describing is like being like hyperactivated all the time, and
Yeah.
everybody has yeah, so like I had the same. I had a bad boyfriend in the past, so I will
Whew.
like scream and run is like my which honestly, if something bad's going on, I'm glad that that's my reaction to it because I'm getting away from it.
Fortunately, now things have gotten way better, and now I scream like a little sissy whenever I get scared. I'm like, ah, so bad. But yes, so people they're acting dumb. Chaos is happening. Kathleen gets out. Come out, come out, Henry. Right now, I want to talk to you. And Henry's like,
Your falsetto voice is.
don't, don't kill. Henry's like, don't kill the kids. And she's like, I'm gonna kill them too.
She was one of those people who was like, I'm not going to get treatment if I ever get sick because it's like I that's what was meant to happen. Like that she was saying he deserved to die when he got cancer.
Kids die all the time, which
You're going to tell me that Kathleen, if she gets hit by a car, is like, no, 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 don't set the leg. Let it heal on its own. Because that was the
no,
energy she was
she
giving.
listen. Her whole thing is, I would not have sold the only person who is leading us out. You traded my brother for yours. And I was like, okay. I was like, listen, do what you're gonna do. Hurry up, vamos.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there. I was like, man. I was like, how are they gonna get out of the situation? Thought Henry was about to get shot. Henry comes out like this, dumb. I would have taken my chances. That broad can't aim.
No, and no one could. Everyone had stormtrooper aim, like villain aim. It was
It was nutty. I would be like, listen, either I get shot standing still or I get shot trying to run. I'm gonna take my chances trying to
run,
run.
right?
Yeah, 100% of the time, every time. Never, kids, don't
Run.
ever sell yourself out. Don't. Period. Get out of there. Um,
You, you know, yeah. I mean, like, oh god, that's a sad thing that we have to give warning to kids like that. But yeah. So the fact that they didn't run repeatedly, my cat's meowing. Stop it. Repeatedly in this episode was so frustrating because they could have gotten out of there. They could have gotten out of there instead of stupidly standing there.
but you
Um,
know what? Hey, clap your hands for the Deus Ex Machina.
the
That
zombie sinkhole,
which I think that was a hint to what we got in the last
right?
episode.
It was just
That
them being underground.
now here's where I'm thinking. It kind of made me think about the whole mycelium thing, the networks that are underground. Like maybe they genuinely do like burrow underground because this was so far out of. I don't know.
What are the
That's
bloaters
just
explode something in the games, right? Am I wrong? Do they?
no bloaters. Bloaters are the bruisers. They
They're
are the
just OP.
tanks. They throw
Yeah.
spores, which there was no throwing of anything.
Mm-mm. My husband was
Um,
like, "Why aren't there spores? Why?" I was like, "They're just not in the show."
I wanted to say so. My notes very clearly say, ignore the ugly handwriting. Run, explosion, and I said mycelium horde because that's what it was.
Yeah,
I said run, and I'm like because everyone's sitting there staring at it. Oh my god! And I'm like,
I
dude,
wrote down
no.
naked bloater. He was naked. And then he literally beheaded someone. And
Hold up.
oh, I'm sorry.
He casually knocked out two people beforehand. Fist to the head, not dead, knocked out. Picked up a guy, threw him on the ground, hurt, maybe not even knocked out.
And not infected, either of them.
Definitely not unless he dug his nails into them.
Can their nails? Is it Walking Dead rules on nails?
Yeah, it's Walking Dead rules because Tess got bit. Someone got scratched.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, someone got scratched and then was like, well, dang.
Damn, Walking Dead rules. Those are intense rules. At least it's not you get it when you die, right? That's always
Yeah,
the daunting thing about that show. Um,
yeah.
and
I
then
was
he
just sitting
rips
there.
a dude's head off.
Oh, and we actually, I can't say we see, but we silhouette see. And I was like, that was enough. And I was like, and it not even that. It was verbatim the end game death that you get if the bloater gets a hold of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like struggling to grab the head and everything. And then
That was
ripped
fan
off.
service. That was great. My husband was like, "Oh, it's exactly like the game." He was so excited.
Exactly. Yeah, I was pretty happy about that. But I'm just like,
Yeah,
this is this was chaos.
and okay, so they're running away. They're running away. We don't really see fully what happens to Sam and to Henry, but we do see that Ellie is like, I'm gonna slide in this tiny window in this car. She is dead silent in this car, and yet a clicker still hears her. Overall, the chaos, overall, like the
Over all that stuff that's going on outside, I don't know. I don't know.
it heard her, and then it like honed in on her, even though she was being quiet. And we saw in whatever episode 1 or 2 where they're being quiet and the clickers aren't coming after them, you know?
So, actually, my question is, because I mean, technically, the people are still alive that are controlled by these mycelium zombies. Do zombie kids not grow up?
I don't think so. They're not, I think it's, so they're alive. At that point, are they alive or are they just mushroom? Once it's erupting from their head, normally in the way cordyceps work in the real world, that ant is dead.
Yeah.
That ant, that bug, whatever it is dead by that point.
Hmm. I don't know.
But they're not eating anything unless we're going to get back into the mycelium, and the mycelium is providing nutrients much like they can do in the, you know what I'm saying? Like
Oh, at
when
this
they
point,
when
I
they
don't
plug
even
into the
know.
hive mind, are they getting nutrients? I
Is that
don't think
how
they
is that how they get YouTube? Is through the hive mind? Is that how they watch this video through the hive mind?
it's literally an internet of mushroom parts.
I just this whole segment, while the action was nice to have,
They were
is
fast. Are they
crazy.
that fast?
Yeah, yeah, they run at you. They do
That
run
was
at you.
like scare. That was like some World War Z running zombie energy. Like
Now,
that was fast.
this is what I want to talk about because in the after show talk, the director was like, "This isn't a video game, so you're not going to see zombie action all the time." And I said, and I was like,
I heard
"Hold
that too.
up!" I was like, "Zombie action all the time." I was like, "I'm not expecting zombie action all the time." I said, "I'm expecting you to see
The
the
threat.
world, the threat." I was
Yeah.
like, "This is show me why people are hiding in QZs.
Right.
Give me that excuse
Why
because
hasn't society come back more?
I'm
Because
like,
honestly, we've seen so little. This episode was the big, but it was only concentrated because they had concentrated them underground.
and they said, yeah, this is the most that we've ever shot with zombies, and I was sitting here, I was like, I'm sorry, episode 2, whenever they swarmed into the state house,
Mm-hmm.
was it more? Because I was like, by far, I was like, there we actually see the threat. This is
Right.
why you're not in Boston. This is why you're in the QZ. Here, that whole QZ area of Kansas City was free roam, no infected. I'm just like,
How are there even infected around enough to infect other people when the way the show is depicting it is that there's probably one per 200 humans at this point?
and
That's how few it feels like.
I know, and apparently some of them just die off, according to what Joel said. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I'm just saying, one time could outdo these and these infected. I'm just like, but
It,
I didn't like how he said that because it's not a game, you don't need to see zombies all the
no, that
time. I'm
was
like,
BS.
and I'm just
That
like,
was
no.
BS.
I was like, provide us a threat. I was like, Kathleen is obviously not as much as a threat as these freaking infected are.
Nor
Yet,
is she even the biggest threat in the game. So again, why
and
focus on
what
her?
this is the first infected we've seen in two episodes.
Mm-hmm. The Bill episode, we had like infected, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
it's a zombie show, but there's no zombies.
That is actually really bizarre. And I'm like, okay, I get you're trying to separate yourself from the game so hard. We don't want to keep it like the game. You could just play the game. What?
Yeah,
This is your premise, and
you
you're throwing it off to the wayside, dude.
is it is it because it's HBO Max and not HBO? Can
I
they
don't
not afford it?
I don't know, because I'm sitting here. I think about The Walking Dead, and that, like, while that whole city was basically like barren as he was like leaving it, then you started seeing the threat more often.
Right.
And then that whole prison season, zombies were at the gates, man.
Yep.
They made sure it was a constant threat
Yeah.
while it was being handled every day, because it was part of their duties to walk up to the fence and stab and stab and stab.
Right.
I was like, I know it's because they're stationary, but I'm like, how do you lose all these towns? And they were proud of themselves. They patted themselves on the back in this after credit thing, saying yes, and we really showed this is what man fell to. I'm like, yeah, thanks for
Well, the what?
showing us that, but like, what's keeping them down?
Yeah. How powerful is Fedra where they can't just do what Kansas City did all the time and like over like I don't understand honestly, and I know that there's higher stakes villains in the game, and I know there's like I don't know details, but I have been told my husband's like this thing coming up might upset you. It might be hard to watch, blah blah blah. Like, it sounds like there's worse enemies. It sounds like there's more zombie. There's obviously I've watched sequences of the game. There's more zombies. Show it. You know, people like, and it's not gratuitous. They're mushroom people, whatever. Like it sometimes on Walking Dead, you get a good zombie kill and you're like, yeah,
And,
like
and like even beyond that, dude, you got pay homage to the original
right.
House of the Dead. Like, is it House of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead?
Night of the Living
Night of
Dead.
the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm.
House of the Dead is a game. Sorry, that's my gamer brain talking.
That's
Night
okay.
of the Night of the Living Dead. When you think about it, it's like that was the issue, was the people within as well. They even understood that, but there was still the constant threat that was outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if it works, it works.
Right.
Don't try your best to separate from your source material because you don't want people to think it's a game. I don't care what you
No
say.
one's gonna think it's a game.
Your show is called The Last of Us, based on a video game. I don't care if you're trying your hardest not to replicate the game. You're replicating the game. And
Do it.
because you
Just do it right.
and it's like, and because you're cutting out some of these parts that were in it because they were too video gamey, you're making the situations weak.
Yeah. And literally boring. I mean, that said, this episode does get into interesting in a entirely fully devastating
Oh yeah,
way.
let's talk about Kathleen's death real quick.
Yeah.
Thank God. I was like, good. And I was happy to watch her get beat the heck up by that
I
clicker
feel bad for
girl.
that actress. People are not gonna like her because of this.
In which I mean, she was fighting people on Twitter about soft how soft spoken Kathleen was.
I didn't
Very. Oh yeah, yeah. I had
that didn't
seen.
bother me.
So I was just in there. I was like, I didn't think it was an issue either. I was just, her purpose was just absolutely
Oh
unnecessary.
no. So the actor's like fighting with people.
Yeah. At least from what I
Cringe.
understand. Yeah, I've seen the article at least. So
Cringe. Yikes. Ooh.
yeah, but yeah, and Joel has to wrangle everyone from watching Kathleen get,
They're
attacked, and
like,
they're just and Joel's like, come on,
yeah,
like,
he's
let's
like, let's get the
go.
hell out of here. So it seemed before Kathleen is killed that when they pull Sam and Henry out, when they pull Sam specifically, I was like, by that point, I was like, he got bit. That zombie was on him,
Yeah,
going ham. So now cut, and we are in a motel. About
yeah.
as clean as some motels I have seen in the United States of America right now to this day. Um,
Which they were, Joel and Henry are actually planning on trying to together. Um,
that was sweet.
it was, and you have Sam and Ellie bonding over comic books and
Very cute.
trying, writing back and forth to each other. Are you ever scared? And what did Ellie say?
She's scared all the time
Yeah, she said only
and
of
scared of being
scorpions.
and of ending up alone,
Yeah.
which back to the foreshadowing that you mentioned earlier.
Lots of foreshadowing.
See, if you haven't played the game, you can figure it out. This is pretty formulaic. Like I was like, oh, duh, you know.
And then Sam, which this was another thing, but Sam said, I'm afraid, he asked a question. He's like, are you still you, whenever you turn into a monster? and then he shows that he's been bitten. In the game, nobody knows. Nobody
Oh.
knows
So we
that
didn't
he was
have to
bitten.
do this bloodborne pathogen
Mm-mm.
thing that she did. That was disgusting.
Yeah, but it also made me think of kids like even me, blood oaths. Man, you ever take a blood oath?
No.
Oh shoot, yeah, blood oaths were a real thing. Me and my
Ugh.
friend Chris did a blood oath. You just cut your hand and
No, I mean I know what it is. I wouldn't. I
open
have
wound.
not
Yeah,
done
yeah.
it.
You should try it. You're still
No,
young.
I'm good. I'm good.
Go
Uh,
go get your husband. Make a blood oath. That's how you
you
seal your
know,
relationship.
I don't. Bloodborne illnesses are terrifying. I'm scared of you. I'm good. My
I'm
cat's like
good.
meowing at me. Yeah, I thought that was gross that she smeared. Her blood was the cure. Did Fedra school not teach her basic, very basic concept of how medicine works?
Yeah, but I credit it to just being a kid.
She's too
'Cause,
old to be doing that, right? I don't know. You have a whimsical dad's perspective, and I was like, ew.
yeah, nah. I think it's pretty justified as a kid.
Okay,
Because I mean, you just try the first thing that comes to mind,
right.
which I could see be like,
She
I'm not gonna make you drink my blood because that's weird, but I will have you. Maybe I could rub it on the wound. Maybe like some
uh-huh.
kind of ointment.
Right. I thought she was like kind of like, oh, she knew. And when she hugged him after, she knew it wasn't gonna work. Like I think in her heart, she was like, okay, this isn't gonna work. Tell someone. Go tell the adult that this kid is infected. Why are you just leaving it up to chance? Like she could get
Yeah,
granted, yes, she's immune, whatever. She could get bit, nothing could happen to her, but she could get bit and
and
like lose an eye
and I
or
think I think what was much more impactful in the game was the fact that nobody knew. So
right.
whenever it came morning time, and like you just see Ellie get freaking charged out of the room, like that
Mhm.
was like shot for shot, redone in this.
Yeah.
And it was like a holy crap, like what is happening? At first you're like, what's attacking her? What got into the room? And then you realize it's the kid.
Hmm.
Versus, oh no, he's been bitten.
He's just
That
gonna chill on the side of the bed too.
I I think the best way to have handled that um would have been the way the game did, because we processed the information the same way Henry processed the information. Holy crap, his brother was infected, and we didn't know that. He didn't know that.
Hmm.
I think that was great. And
I
uh,
mean, even though they did alter it slightly, I do think the way that the actor who played Henry handled it was like,
yeah, which even with, yeah, exactly, with that change, because I think I think it was well acted.
right.
With even with Kevin Woodard, um,
Hmm.
who played Sam. Like those emotional moments were good, and I think they were a good addition. I just think it would have been more impactful for us
No,
to
I
have
agree.
experienced it first time
I
with.
don't think it would have made sense for Ellie being as smart as she is. Not the blood thing. I mean, I'll cede you that. Like kids are going to be kids,
to
but
not to
to
not
not
go
say
tell
something,
Joel.
right?
Yeah,
That was weird.
but I think she also,
Just drop something. Sorry.
this is probably her first friend that she's made in a long time,
Hmm.
and it definitely
She
would have
just
been
wanted
hard
it
for
to
her to.
work.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, so I could totally see it. It's just, it's like, when you give a twist, let us experience it for the first time with the characters,
Right.
because the moment that you show the twist again, it loses all impact,
It
and it's
felt
just like,
expositional again. A lot of exposition in this show, like where it
yeah,
was not needed. And I think that's something like that a lot of zombie shows do. The reveal of the bite, like that is so done and done, you
yeah,
know?
we've already seen it 3 times technically with Ellie.
Yeah. On this show, forget about Walking Dead doing that a bazillion times after a big battle. Like I know Walking Dead's a separate show, but you're never not going to be compared to the other major zombie show, right? So,
Yeah.
of
But
course, he blocks Joel from shooting. Henry blocks Joel from shooting him. Um,
yeah, he got the gun first. He got
yes.
hold of the gun first. Yeah.
And then his instinct as a protector, not of his brother, but of Ellie, kicks in and he ends up shooting his own brother, which was, whew. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
glad he did it. I thought it was like his realization, right? But like that instinct kicked in, I think, and
yeah.
he did it, you know?
And
So
and he said, "What did I do?
yeah.
What did I just do?"
And he's watching the blood and that kind of thing. And
And Joel trying to get the gun from him because he knows what the next step is. He's like,
yeah.
"Oh, give me the gun, man." Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm glad that this death was off screen,
yeah.
obviously. With
It
the
was off screen in a way that was still present.
yeah. They
Yeah,
didn't cut to another room. I mean, we heard even just Ellie's reaction before he did it. She was like, you know, like she made an audible sound of like fear. And now Joel is officially dead.
they buried them. Ellie wrote on Sam's notepad, "I'm sorry,"
Hmm.
and placed it on the grave. And Ellie's like, "Come on, let's go. Which way is
Yeah.
west? Yeah,
Hmm.
we got to move." Because I think at this point she's like, I'm ready to see if I can be part of a cure,
Hmm.
so that doesn't ever happen again.
And she, you know, she had some hope that that was how
Mhm.
it worked, right? Like her blood was the cure or whatever. And I mean, in theory, yeah, but that's not how it works. So it was just, and in the next episode, they do show him saying, well, that it's a little more complicated than that, you know? So it's just another sad, hard to watch ending. And just
But
again,
I think the part that sucks about it, as sad as the concept in itself is, I feel like there was so much of an effort to get us to feel for them that it lost some of that luster a little
right.
bit. Because
And you,
when there's a difference between taking away a character that you grew, like, were really a part of, to like see develop, which I think that's why the Bill and Frank episode works so well. We saw them develop over
mhm,
years, even though it was just confined in one episode. We seen Bill come out of his shell, open up, uh really start to appreciate life even in the apocalypse. And we got to see that. We got to see that love. We got to see the relationship build between the two of them, and just how much they cared about each other, instead of, you know, telling the situation, show don't tell kind of thing.
mhm,
In which we got the tell part in this episode, where it was,
yeah, it was all
here it
told.
is. It was, let me tell you why you should care about these characters. Let me not build up a reason. Oh, which, I'm not trying to say anything. It's like, oh, he's deaf. He also had leukemia, and like it was like, okay, lay off
It
the
didn't,
lay off the
yeah.
brakes a little bit. I get it. You're trying to make me sympathize with these people. Give
Mhm,
me, I personally, if you wanted the ending to be as impactful, you should have made a similar Bill and Frank episode with Sam and Henry.
yeah.
So you could have shown the history with Kathleen
Mhm.
and
And
everyone
this was a
building up to that point.
2 episoder.
Yeah, I was like, you could have built up that entire relationship with Sam and Henry, Kathleen, the guy that Sam sold out, and then in the next episode, give us them trying to escape town,
Mhm.
and then whenever they kill, whenever Sam ends up getting infected, and then Henry ends up killing himself.
Yeah.
That, I think that would have been more impactful.
It would have. And honestly, it's starting to drag. So
And
I do have a question though, because last week you had mentioned if they show a certain death that's going to happen in this week's episode off screen, you said it was going to be botched. Which
it
death was that for you?
it was Henry's. While I do understand, I was like, I do understand taking off on off screen. I think they handled this one
Yeah.
correctly enough,
Hmm.
not to be bad. I think if they had heard the gunshot and then zoomed up on Ellie's face, like, oh, then I would be like, wow,
Right.
that sucked. But I
We
think it
didn't
was
need
the
to see.
gunshot and then just, because I went back to look at the death in the game, and it was rapid. It was a lot faster than it was in the show. Sam gets shot and he goes, "What did I do?" And
And then
then
he just does it.
and then Joel goes, "Wait, wait," and he points the gun at him, and then immediately, boom,
Yeah. So we get to
instantly.
see a little bit
I
more of
was
his mental math on like what had happened. We see they show the blood multiple times. He's looking at it obviously, and then he's
which,
gone.
and I think the reason why I like the faster one as much as I do is because it was almost like this sense of my purpose is done. I am done.
Yeah.
Don't even need to go into explanation. I
Mm.
understood it, and I was like, "Dang, that was it," you know.
Right. It kind
And
of drew, it almost gave me a little bit of hope, like maybe, and then obviously, yeah, I mean, it was devastating, but I feel like it was done in a way that was like, it almost cheapened. Like you said, I think this episode had overall kind of cheapened what it was setting out to do. So
yeah,
that said, do you have an overall, do you want to,
cap it off.
yeah, let's cap it off.
Man, I'm giving this episode a 5, dude. There was too much forced sympathy, in my opinion, and too much forced sympathy. Too much. I think the threat was never there. The threat was never there. Um,
Mm.
they they Deus Ex Machina the
Cordyceps ex
yeah the
machina.
Cordyceps Ex Machina, the you know Cordyceps horde that was underground to pull them out of that situation.
Right.
The amount of stopping in awe during these situations was pissing me off.
Right.
Um, the amount of unnecessary off-screen deaths, the amount of unnecessary. I'm Kathleen. This is why you should sympathize with me. I'm hardcore. It's like, dude, no one who's hardcore says they're
Says that.
hardcore.
Yeah. No, they just
Which she
are
was like,
crazy.
which she blatantly says, "I'm worse than my brother." I'm like, shut up now, okay? Shut up, dude. I'm so done with you. They could have had everything lined up perfectly for this episode without showing so much.
Hmm.
And my whole deal is if you're going to show something, show it all, lean into it all the way, or don't show any of it at all.
Right.
Don't tell us this stuff. I don't care. And
Hmm.
then this was awesome. This was the episode that made me realize that they do not take the infected as seriously as they probably should.
No.
And I was just like, it's going to be more of this going into the future. And yeah, so I'm just
Yeah.
right now I'm sitting at a 5 because I'm like,
Um,
take it or leave this episode.
Fast forward through the first 40 minutes of this episode, honestly, and you have a pretty decent little sequence there.
Yeah,
Could have been something.
I
Could have
mean,
been
I'll make a
okay.
Nightwall edit.
Yeah. Seriously. All right. My rating, I'm gonna say 5 too. Honestly, I mean, the amount of times I wrote blah 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 or I'm so bored in that first 40 minutes of the episode, I did it like 3 or 4 times. This whole episode was exposition and it was boring exposition. And you could have taken the first half of last week's episode and the last half of this week's episode and put them together, and it would have been an hour-long episode because last week's was
drop the
short.
Kathleen scenes, and yeah.
And that's it. And I
Mm-hmm.
still would have probably cried when Sam died and Henry died because
Mm-hmm.
that alone, even just like
Yeah,
if I mentally block out all the backstory, I don't give a shit about the backstory to be honest with you.
yeah,
If I just block that out, that alone, seeing their relationship, seeing Ellie and him laugh, that's enough for me to be
yeah.
invested. Yeah, that's where I'm at. It was boring. I was bored. And I'm nervous for the rest of the show, which I have not been really
It's
for this show until today.
man,
So
such a strong start, and I think what helps sway opinion a lot of time is the fact that because there isn't a lot of video game adapt or live action adapted media
mhm,
that's good. Like it's easy to keep people impressed in the first half.
right.
How are you going to get everyone else through it all the way in? Because for some reason, and I don't know what it is with people being obsessed with changing established source material so much
Let's
to
retcon
tell
it.
a story. Yeah, I mean, the story was already there. The
Hmm.
story was already there, and they say, "Well, this isn't you know. If you want to play the video game, play the you know. If you want the video game, play the video game." I'm like, listen, I know I can play the video game. I don't want the video game. I want a story that's going to stay consistent with what I fell in love with in 2000 whatever, whenever the
Yeah,
game came out.
13 or whatever. Yeah.
You know, as
Um,
it's like I don't have a problem with you expanding on Bill and Frank so long as it's good. I don't have a problem if you decide to expand on Sam, Henry, and this new Kathleen character so long as it is good.
mhm.
Kathleen's motivations are absolutely stupid. They are weak. I
It was a lot of grandstanding. You know what? I'm going to be controversial and I'm going to say I don't think the showrunners are giving their very talented two lead actors enough time to
mm-hmm,
shine.
mm-hmm.
I was telling my husband, I was like, hey, where is the funny? When you watch this game, it's Ellie swearing nonstop and being a little poop and like, being rude and funny and crass and him having his Joel reaction to it. And we've gotten the last episode they did
Like
that.
that
They
last
shoehorned
episode was
it
very
only into
well,
that.
and that's the thing. It's like when Joel and Ellie, like when Pedro Pascal and Bella are working
They're great.
together, the
Trust them.
chemistry is phenomenal. I'm like, play some more on that.
Mhm. It makes me mad almost that it feels like the showrunners are like, they're not enough. We need to add all this other blah, 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 whatever. Bill and Frank's episode was great. This was 2 episodes. Boring. Trust your actors. You're
And
really good actors. Like, they're good.
and now that I think about it, man, we didn't even see them move through the town to get to those tunnels.
No, we didn't see them get out of the tunnel. We didn't see them go into the tunnel. We didn't see half of them walking. We saw that one little clip. I don't trust your
It
actors. You have great
it,
actors. That's it.
it's starting to make me realize that it's just like why are we cutting out some things? And I'm like, is it because you think it's going to be too much like a video game because they got to go through the town? That is the danger. That is the danger. They have to not get spotted.
Mm-hmm. That's stakes. Like Kathleen's vendetta. Who cares? I don't know. Yeah, so I think we both had a strong beef with this episode. And I mean, people are obsessed with Pedro Pascal right now. I don't know if your for you page is like this.
It is.
Mm, I'm not mad about it. Um, I like it. He's hot. That's all my whole thing is just him, edits of him. There's a lot of edits of him. They're great. You want to go check those out. They're out there for you. But Ian's like, no.
Not for me. I'm okay. I want my
There is
Kathleen edits.
I don't want those either.
Why not?
But there's so much hype about the leads of this show. I know that's already edited and done, but like, come on, you knew that it was gonna get this kind of thing.
I don't know. It's like the more I keep thinking about this episode, and I'm just like, man, there's so many scenes where just characters are being stupid. I think the only one that had his head on straight the whole time was Joel.
Really, for real.
And I'm like, dang. Perry got real stupid. Like, I'm gonna take on the bloater. Oh, you go get him. Go with her. Go with her.
Why run? What fall back?
Like, what are we doing, dude? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, dude. It's just
the stakes were off. The exposition was. It was just not our favorite episode on the cast.
it's like that whole area is now infested with the infected. How the heck did they get to the hotel and not get followed by infected? Like, for crying out loud,
They're
man.
cutting out crucial info. Like,
They do. They just like, all right, and next scene. I'm like,
I know. I'm almost
get
expecting
us
like a
there.
Star Wars transition where like 2 slides because like that's how abrupt
You're
it feels.
you're right. Because what in Star Wars they were just going planet to planet to planet to planet.
Hmm.
Not even like whenever they were doing the scavenger hunt, it was just planet to planet to planet. I'm like,
Right.
dude, what are we Nikki, talking about this episode has made me realize how much I did not like this episode actually.
I didn't like it
I'm
either.
moving my episode. I'm moving my rating down to a 4.
Yeah.
I'm moving it down to a 4. When I said take it or leave it, I'm leaving it.
Hmm. It won't be on my rewatch.
And, and to be clear, it's not because it wasn't violent enough for me by any means. Because I was like, cool. I was satisfied because the bloater actually did his finisher. That
Hmm.
was cool. But when it comes down to it, man, that was fan service.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen Joel go up against the bloater a
I would
little
have
bit
loved
more.
to see any of our heroes go up against any of the zombies, really, other than running away from them and staring at them when they're 12 feet away from you. Yeah. So, overall, not our favorite episode. I am excited for the next episode ish, but it seems like, again, there's not much of a threat in the next episode. I don't know if this big overarching villain that I keep hearing so much about is coming soon because I haven't played the games. But it does seem like a very person heavy. It's starting to get into soap opera territory a little bit for me. So
Oh God, they're barreling through this. Spoiler
I
alert!
feel like we're gonna lose Joel a little too early for the
It's like
series. They're going on a speed run of this game, if we're gonna put it in video game parlance. Um,
any
and
percent. They're doing an any percent speed run, which is awful. Golly.
yeah, so I'm sad about it. It wasn't our best episode. I wish we could end this on a lighter note because we didn't enjoy this episode as much as we did other
Shoot, I don't want
episodes.
to end it on a lighter note. Do better. That's all I gotta say. Do better. I have standards, and I expect them to be met. This is your audience. What are you doing?
It's a disservice to gamers.
Exactly. Then you can play the game. No, this is our money. Take our feedback. Don't use it if you don't want to. We'll just leave. We won't watch next season. You let us know.
I'm with
Nikki
you.
may or may not. Oh, okay, there we go. I was like, Nikki may or may not agree.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Thanks,
I was
Trey.
just enthralled in that passionate discussion. All right, I think we should end it because we're
We're
gonna be
gonna
a
end
long
it.
episode. But
I could talk more about it. Don't worry. Hey,
we might just do a super cut of you being pissed at this episode
you
for
know,
all the fans.
yeah, there we go. See now. Also, hey guys, since we're wrapping it up, let's get in on the discussion. Go to
Yeah.
Twitter. Tell us what you think about this episode at the Capcast, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, at the Capcast. Like, if you disagree with me and you think this episode was a 10 out of 10, tell me how I'm wrong, and then I will argue with you right back.
Right.
And then Nikki will be there to referee me, to reel me in.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't like it.
yeah.
It wasn't my favorite.
Don't come at Nikki, because then I fight too. I'm kidding.
He's not kidding. We will both fight. All right. So, well, this has been a very impassioned episode of the Capcast. Be sure to tune in to us. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. Give us check us out everywhere. And also, congratulations to my co-host here, Naiwal, for hitting 100,000 followers on YouTube. That's a big
I
achievement,
did. Yeah,
and we're
it's
very
crazy.
excited.
There will be a plaque there, and I feel bad because it's not going to be for the Capcast. But you know
Hey,
what?
one
Hey,
day,
one day
right?
it'll be right there. It'll be right there. So, but y'all, thank you for joining us. Disappointed or disgruntled. Uh, remember, don't feed the Yaguai. That is
That is
all.
all.